Okay, today's lesson. Yes, we're still locked up with COVID, and today's lesson. I think we're up to number 5, and this is about how to improve your perception of the wind direction. Okay, it's the first of probably about 4 related to wind direction. The other 3 will be related to how relief actually affects wind direction. And sort of precursor to that is that you've really got to have some skills associated with how to detect the wind direction. Okay. This sort of stems from a trip that I did with another senior hunter, similar vintage to me, just a little bit younger. And we left the hut, got down into the river, and gets out the cigarette lighter and goes, and says, "Oh, yeah," announces that the wind's going down the stream. And I thought this was a bit strange because it was a light wind day, but you could easily tell, at least I could, easily tell which way the wind was blowing. But here he was with the cigarette lighter and going, the wind's going downstream. And I'm going, didn't say anything to him. I'm forever a diplomat, but it was a sudden realization that even senior hunters, people who've been doing it for a long time, their skill set is not as good as what you would think that they should be able to, or that it should be. And over the course of the day, you'd get the cigarette lighter out and you confirm the wind direction. So he's essentially just doing it by sampling. Okay, it's not on a continuous basis that he's getting the wind direction. So it was sort of the genesis of the idea that I should start up doing a few videos on how to hunt, to improve people's skill levels in the hunting area, because it's pretty clear that they're sorely lacking. So if we were to break down the skill level, and we've got 0, person's new to hunting, knows jack shit, and then we've got 100%, someone who's been doing it for ages and knows everything that you need to know about hunting. As 100%, well, I don't even know 100%. No one ever does, principally because this is a game where you're always learning. So, but if we were to say, okay, the first 20% is this guy was using the cigarette lighter, so he's sampling the air, and that's the level that you get to. It's not good enough to actually go hunting. That's sort of the amateur level. The next level would be 60%, and that's for someone who is actually aware every second of the day which way the wind is blowing. And while it's a skill that's actually not that hard to learn, it's not like the episode 4 where I was talking about eyesight, and that one was pretty difficult. This one's actually quite simple, and after I finish going down the spectrum, I'll go back to how you get to the 60% level. I know you're sitting there saying, "Oh, but Yui, that's a bit tough, isn't it? I would have thought if you knew which way the wind was blowing, that was it. You would have known. That's sort of the top of the game." No, not really. The next level, or next step, is up to 79%. And that is not only if you know which way the wind's blowing where you are, but you can use visual clues, which way the bush is leaning and how the thistles are going up the hill, that you've got the visual clues that say, if the deer's over there, the deer is getting its wind from that direction. And the next level is from 80 to 100. It's someone who knows the wind direction in some other location, like where the deer is or where you're about to walk, based on the knowledge of how the relief, the hillsides affect wind direction. So that you get hunters come back to camp and they say, oh, the wind was always up my ass. It's sort of like they've they've made the mistakes of walking in the wrong place or walking in the wrong direction that led them to have a problem where the wind was always up their ass all day. So an example would be if you're standing in a creek, main creek down this way, there's a side gut there, and the wind's coming up the gully. I know not to walk over and go up that side gut because I know that the air direction is going to be up the gut. So if I walk like the best part of maybe 15 yards, the air which has been going this way will be now going that way. And if I think there's a deer up there, I know that I have to walk up through all the bush, cut across, and then come down on top of them to avoid them getting my wind. So that sort of 80 to 100% zone is what I'm going to talk about in the next 3 videos, and to try and get your skill level up in that zone. This one we're trying to get you from 0 or 20% up to the 60% level, and it's not actually that difficult. Basically you pick it up on your head, which way the wind's blowing. I know you're sitting there going, oh yeah, I can feel it. You won't be as good as what you think you are. You've got to actually test yourself to know that you can be in the position where you can pick up the wind direction from any direction around your head. And there's 2 levels. One where you have to think about it. You have to sort of say, which way is the wind blowing? Well, it's coming this way. And the next level is where it's automatic, where you're just like aware of it. The body just knows that the wind direction is this way. And you can get there quite easily. The biggest problem that you see with people who go hunting and you know that they've got a problem is they've got a hood on. You can't feel the wind direction from the back. Or another bad case is if they're not follically challenged like some of us, and they've got the muley, or they're a girl which has got the hair down to here, you can't actually feel the air on the back of your neck. And so if you're got a muley or plenty of hair, the first thing that you've got to do is stick the hair in a ponytail or an equally attractive man bun, so that you can actually get that bit of your neck exposed. Because while most people can pick up the wind direction on their forehead or maybe just here, that's about the limit. So how do you train yourself to do it? Well, it's the good old faithful cigarette lighter and a walk up the park. And this is your homework assignment. You take the cigarette lighter, you walk up the park, you only do 80 metres or something. A man in my condition would be sweating by then. And you flick the cigarette lighter, you work out which way the wind direction is going, and then you work out how it feels on your face. Right? So if the wind's coming from this side, then it's going to be colder on this side. Then you walk on another 20 or 30 metres and you do it again. Right? Flick the cigarette lighter, work out how it feels on your face. Okay, you'll only need to do that about 6 times. Right? And the benefit of the park up here is that you're going around in a circle, so you do actually get the wind direction from here, and then by the time you walk around the park, it's coming from over here, and when you get a bit further around the park, it's coming from behind, so you get to experience what it feels like for all the different wind directions. Once you've done it 6 times with the cigarette lighter first, you then want to do it with the cigarette lighter last. So you just walk along, you stop, right? Work out which way you think the wind's coming from. At the moment it's coming from there. Put the cigarette lighter up and test whether you've got it right. You'll find that's pretty easy for the stuff that comes from the front, or maybe to the side, but you won't find it as easy for the direction from the back. Okay, so depending on which way the wind's blowing, you might want to start with just the wind direction from somewhere around the front, and then turn around and walk the other way, and then see how good you are at actually picking up the wind direction from behind you. Okay. People say, well, you know, why is that so bloody important? Well, apart from the fact that it's deer's primary form of defence, right? The wind direction changes so much in just a few paces that you can't use the sampling method to be successful. I'll give you an example. I was hunting in Woodhill Forest yet again, and I'm walking down. It's a slope like this, right? And the sea breeze is coming this way, which is fine. You'd think, well, nice slope like this is exposed, everything's going to be sweet, it's just going to keep on coming towards me. And I'm going down to this zone where it's got nice long marram grass, which is grass about this high, with plenty of pine tree cover, and it's prime territory. Anyway, I'm walking down there, and there's a few fallen trees and shit in front of me, so I've got to walk to the left. So I take 2 paces to the left, and all of a sudden, so I'm on an angle like this, and then the side of the face gets cold. Right? So what do? You instantly look that way, because the deer that's been asleep in the marram grass is about to get a nostril full of Old Spice, and they don't like it. And that's what happened in this case. And it's one of these cases that you remember, because the fallow deer are normally 2-tone black. They do have quite a colour range, but this one looked like a chocolate Labrador, and it was uniformed. The whole lot was all exactly the same colour, and of course it bounded off, and I wasn't allowed to shoot it. It was a hind, but even if I could, we're able to have a go at it, I don't think I could have hit this one, because they bounce along the ground like that. But a person who's doing the cigarette lighter sampling thing every 30 minutes is not going to be aware of that sudden change in wind direction. That's why you need to know every second of the day which way the wind is blowing. Right? And you have to test yourself in the park, so that you can be confident that you can walk around without the cigarette lighter and know which way the wind's blowing. Because once you've done it in the first lot of the case where you're hitting the cigarette lighter but you're stationary, then I want you to do it on the fly. So you're walking along, and every 30 seconds or so you're going to ask yourself, which way is the wind going while you're walking, because you've got your own generated wind, so the face will be cool on this side and only slightly colder on this side if the wind's coming towards you. And that's sort of like the next level up. Right? And so you walk along 30 seconds, which way is the wind blowing? Here, stop and flick the cigarette lighter and see whether you're correct. Okay. And by the time you've done this process, you should start on a day which has got a gentle breeze, because the wind direction doesn't change as much. But it's enough, gentle enough that you can detect it on your face. The next step is to do it on a blustery day where the wind is going all over the place. It's sort of like the next level of difficulty up, and you'll be going along and you'll be saying, the wind's from over there, oh no, it's from here, oh, it's from here. And you've got to be able to flick the cigarette lighter and make sure that the cigarette lighter marries up with your perception of where the wind is coming from. And it comes down to the last case, which is the hardest one, which is the days where there's virtually no wind, and you're relying on the sampling process. And the fingers, that's not too bad, but the cigarette lighter is the most accurate, or you can get one of those puffer bottles that the bow hunters use. But essentially, in our alpine environment, there's very few days where the wind is so light that you need to resort just to the cigarette lighter. In those cases, you can only sample it and pray like hell that you're not caught out by some surprise wind direction. People say, oh, but if it's not blowing very hard, then your scent's not going to carry very far. Wrong. It will go a long way very shortly, and even in the lightest of wind conditions. So that's essentially how you get to that level, that awareness level. Right? But you've got to try it from the different wind conditions, i.e. not much, light and blustery, and you've got to test yourself so that you can actually confirm to yourself that you know what's going on when you're with a cigarette lighter. I said that do it every sort of 30 paces or something like that, but at the end, once you've done this a couple of times, I then want you to ask yourself every pace when you're going around One Tree Hill or your park, wherever you are. Because it's one thing to think about it, right? So I was talking about the levels of skill level for doing this. So you can get to a stage where you have to think, you have to ask yourself, which way is the wind blowing? The real prime level that you want to be in is where you are like permanently aware that the wind is coming from this way, right? Or the moment while I'm sitting here, the wind's going like this. So that you don't have to think about it, sort of like automatic mode. And it's actually not that hard to do. And it will certainly improve your hunting ability if you know that your scent's not going in the wrong direction, right? Or if it does, like the example with the Woodhill, that you react straight away when you know that your scent is going in the wrong direction. And, I would have lost count the number of times that I've seen deer because I've been caught with the wind direction gone wrong, and I've looked and it's all over Rover. But at least you see them. So it's the first step to getting you to a level where you're a competent hunter, is knowing every second of the day which way the wind is blowing. Right? So we've got to the 60% mark, and it's how do you get to the 79%? And the logic behind all this was one day Lockie and I were sitting opposite one of our favourite clearings, and Lockie says to me, he says, oh, do you think we should stay here because the wind's coming from behind? Meaning, the deer are over there and the wind was behind us here. And I said, no. The wind where we think the deer was going to be was anabatic wind conditions. The sun was on the clearing, and the wind was going up the hill, and I could see from the movement of the trees and things around the clearing that which way the wind was blowing, and you could also see from the thistles going up the gully what was happening to our wind. And it's not good enough merely to know which way the wind is right where you are, but also what's happening to your wind. So our wind was going out like that and going up that way. So the deer up there, which were hidden behind trees, we couldn't see them, they knew we were here. But the deer that was going to be out in the clearing, which is what we were setting up to shoot on, they had no idea that we were there. And all that came about from just watching the natural clues, if you like. So just the bushes and things like that. No, the thistles, etc. It's not from an understanding of anabatic and katabatic wind and the fact that this was an exposed spur. It was on the exposed side of the hill, and it was an oblique wind direction, which was causing a vacuum which made the wind go up the gully. Right. That's all for the 80% to 100% zone, which is quite complex, hence it's going to be done over several videos. But we didn't need that info to be able to work out what happened or was happening to the wind where the deer was. We could actually just use the environmental clues, the visual clues about what was happening with the wind to be able to determine that we were okay. And so that's why I've broken it down into two steps, if you like. So you got from 60 to 79, it's visual clues, and from 80 to 100, it's actual in-depth knowledge of how the relief affects the wind direction. And it's going to be tricky to do those videos. It's one thing to do it, demonstrate it on the ground when you're there, but to put it on a video so that people who are watching the video actually understand what's going on and are aware of the relationships of everything, it's a lot harder than if someone was just here and you were just teaching them. And it's also quite complex, and that we've got all manner of things about exposed sides and what happens on the lee side and what happens with oblique wind direction, etc. So those ones are going to be rather time consuming, and I must confess I don't actually know how I'm going to do it yet. I think what I need is to be able to talk theory and demonstrate it virtually at the same time, so in the field. I don't know whether I can actually do it in One Tree Hill. I think I have to go and do it down in the bush. And well, that's not going to happen until Cindy lets us out, which there's going to be another couple of months before that happens. So I have to wait, I'm sorry. But in the meantime, go and do the homework, because it will give you a big lift on your ability to hunt. If you've got that skill of being able to know every second of the day which way the wind is blowing, and also where your wind is going. Okay?